more than 20 years, Girls Right Now has matched underserved young women with professional women writers as their personal mentors.
Being a girl from Brooklyn and being a young black girl and not seeing so many representations of what I could be, she opened up my scope of a life that I could live.
I can't think of anything I would rather be doing tonight than to be participating in a reading with such amazing mentors and mentees.
When I was their age, I wasn't as clear-eyed and as clear-headed, and I like to think that some of the credit for that luminous lucidity goes to the kind and generous women who are the mentors.
You are doing the most important thing that I can imagine.
You ask our young people to dream, and you give them the tools to fulfill those dreams.
Girls Right Now is doing amazing things to encourage young women to look within and see that their point of view is not only valid, but it's important and essential.
And this is what stories do. They let us know that no matter how different and unique we are and how isolated we may feel, someone else has been there, someone else has survived, and someone else has made it out. Telling our stories is a revolutionary act.
And perhaps you young women will help shape the movement into a just and equitable and peaceful yet forceful revolution.
At its core, Girls Right Now is a communal enterprise. Our model only works when a mentor and mentee are bolstered by a robust network of friends and writers who take a stake in their success in their future by coming together.
So you're never alone. I think people think of writing as a lonely, solitary process, which it can be for some things. But at the end of the day, the thing I've found most useful is to surround myself with other amazing writers, and you build your ideas together.
The best thing by far that I've gotten out of Girls Right Now is just a sense of empowerment from all of the strong and successful and determined women who I meet through the community.
And every year, we will continue to send 100% of our seniors onto college, as we have done throughout our entire history.
Girls Right Now gave me the flame, gave me a throat so flammable I think I can spit fire. Call us Dragon Woman.
Call us young women writers.
When I first met my mentor, she spoke firecracker. The sparks flew. I heard her presence crack the ice of the room.
And to realize that such a point existed, that my writing could bring back memories people had, that this community is so full of empathy, was humbling and was lovely.
I am a story waiting to be told, memoirs waiting to be written, patience burning of suffrage, withering of double standards, of double consciousness. I am woman.
This is what Girls Right Now does. Gives a young woman writer the place, an opportunity to tell her story, our stories. We are Girls Right Now.
Hello, and welcome to the Girls Rewrite Now Awards, a night of revolutionary mini masterclasses. I'm Brittany, a Girls Right Now mentee alum, educator, and poet. Now, this is not your typical award ceremony, because obviously, these are not typical times. Tonight, there is no podium or fancy trophies, and you might even be wondering, why a masterclass? Well, for 23 years, Girls Right Now has been dedicated to breaking down the barriers of race and poverty to elevate the voices of girls and gender nonconforming youth who are too often not heard or worse, silenced. 2020 has been quite the year, and each day new barriers reveal themselves, whether it's school, politics, protests, or anything in between. Our young writers stand tall at the intersection of all these battles, and quite often they're telling us the way to overcome them. If only we would listen. So tonight, you will hear from our Agent of Change honorees, writers, authors, and artists who continue to do the incredible and necessary work of amplifying diverse voices and leading us in imagining a better world. The honorees are Tembi Banks, Kazi David, in conversation with Kate Napolitano, Dominique Fishback, Rupi Kaur, Jennifer Lewis, Lori List presented by Hannah Gatsby, Lauren Ashley Smith, and Cleo Wade. In place of traditional acceptance speeches, They are offering you the most important lessons they've learned so far in their journeys. You will also hear from Girls Right Now mentees on the lessons that will be taught in school if they were in charge. And tonight, our mentees are in charge. So let's redraft, retell, rethink, and reimagine a way forward with valuable masterclasses and stories from today's change makers. Thank you to our generous Agent of Change corporate partners and Girls Right Now Circle members, our dedicated board of directors and staff, our talented mentors and mentees, and to all of you who are joining us tonight to support the next generation of writers and leaders. So sit back, relax, and you may want to take notes. I know I sure will.
We could not be more excited to honor Jennifer Lewis with the Agent of Change Award. Here's her masterclass on nurturing the dream beneath the story.
Hey everybody, it's Jennifer Lewis. I'm happy to be here with the Girls Right Now. Let me just say, first of all, I'm proud of you. Writing is so personal, and I'm going to be honest with you. Writing The Mother of Black Hollywood was the hardest thing I ever did. I actually am reading Mariah Carey's book right now because she sent it to me. Hey, Mariah. And she really laid it out on the slab. She talked about her pain. She actually sent a box of tissue with the box. I don't have that kind of money. Anyway, let me be serious and tell you to just write. Write. Write your ass off. The reason The Mother of Black Hollywood was successful is because I started journaling in the 70s. And there was a part of me that knew I was going to be a star. So I was like, I'm going to write my memoir. I'm going to let everybody know everything. But what that did for me is it gave me details. I mean, that I ate hot apple pie, that the sheets were crisp, that the view was all consuming. You know, when I was in Kentucky, the Blue Ridge Mountains, the details were there. So journal. End of story. Journal every day of your life. Just do it. Why not? You'll get in touch with your feelings and you'll be able to work through them better. So, my process in writing is basically to just vomit the story out. Just tell the story. And then go in there and make sure, you know, every chapter has a beginning, middle, and end. Find the form. I start with, what do I want people to walk away with? It's a lot of work. But if you really engage, it will unfold. If you tell the truth, make those characters true. Give them substance. Every human being has a story, but it's what's beneath that you want to bring out more. What happened to that character? How'd they get where they are? How did I get from a small town, poverty-stricken, surrounded by racism, using an outhouse? I got 5 bathrooms now. Hey, watch out. How did I get from there to there? Dreaming. I had a dream, and that dream became a passion. And every day, it's like this. Is that a good thing? It's what I knew at the time. But no matter how bad things got, I had a dream, and nothing was going to stop me. Nothing. I have this saying now, not even me can stop me. And that's how I have sustained. by believing in myself, going to therapy after I found out I had bipolar disorder. I went and took care of myself. And that's what I want you to do. Shine. Shine, girls. Make it bright. Tell it all. Don't hold nothing back, because it's you. And you be proud of you. I'm proud of you. Do your best and leave the rest. Love yourself so that love will not be a stranger when it comes. The elevator to success is broken. Take the stairs. Take each step in. What did you learn? Did you feel your feelings? What did you learn? Then move on. So that's it. Just got out of Blackish. I'm exhausted. But you know what? I'm doing like 5 videos today. Tracy Sherrod asked me to do this for young women. Present. I can't say no during these times, no matter how tired or how busy I am. You're important to me. The next generation, if you really want to know the truth, is really all that matters to me now, because I want you to have wonderful lives. So don't disappoint me. I'll see you in the trenches. And go get 'em, Tiger. Bye.
Girls Right Now mentees Amina Castronovo, Jade Lozada, and Jayola Reed will be co-teaching a masterclass on storytelling for climate justice.
Hi, I'm Jade.
Hi, I'm Jayola.
And I'm Amina.
And we are Girls Right Now mentees and climate justice activists.
No matter the workshop or genre and focus at Girls Right Now, I've noticed 2 themes weaving so many of our stories together: racial justice and immigration. Now we have a third in common: COVID-19. Though these may seem like separate injustices, they're all inextricably linked to one of the world's most urgent issues: the climate crisis. Here's how. It all begins with the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Their land was stolen, renamed, and commodified. To this day, oil drilling companies buy the rights to tribal land to drill for oil whose emissions threaten the water safety of those communities, their biodiversity, and their autonomy. At this moment in the Girls Right Now office in Midtown Manhattan, we're standing on the land of the Munsee Lenape. But it doesn't end there. So often, we talk about how immigrants come here in search of the American dream, the economic opportunity they didn't have. But why is that? It's because the same world-dominating corporations are gouging their native land for food for the so-called first world, paying them virtually nothing for their labor so that they have no choice but to migrate. These are the same corporations that waste years of drinking water on fast fashion and emit tons of carbons in the production and transport of their goods across oceans. And of course, those emissions come back to the developing countries first in the form of droughts, dangerous heat, floods, wildfires, and hurricanes. Then, when immigrants come to America, they're faced with racism and xenophobia. We came of age watching children be separated from their families and caged, watching ICE threaten communities a lot like ours. Whether we knew it or not, we were watching the climate crisis play out before us.
Jade is exactly right. Black Lives Matter is a climate issue too. Mont Haven in the South Bronx is the poorest congressional district in the country. Unfortunately, they have been burdened with another undesirable title, the Asthma Alley. This is due to the fact that asthma rates in the South Bronx are 8 times higher than in the entire country. Most parents would not want to raise their children in a neighborhood subjected to so many inhumane circumstances. But unfortunately, for many families falling beneath the poverty line, there is simply no choice. Now, people in the South Bronx are suffering from disproportionate cases of COVID-19 as well. There are many factors that contribute to the low air quality in the South Bronx. Perhaps one of the biggest ones being heavy diesel intensive truck companies such as Fresh Direct. Did you know that Black people are 1.5 times more likely to be exposed to air pollutants, and Latinx people 1.2 times more likely than their white counterparts? This issue has not been addressed by the New York City Department of Education because climate justice is not a mandatory part of the curriculum. Shouldn't students know the kind of air that we're breathing in? Now, why has this issue not been resolved? The same reason that the Flint water crisis issue hasn't been resolved. Poverty and lack of political power. The Flint water crisis, as well as the air pollutant crisis, is all part of a bigger emergency, the climate emergency. But in order to address the climate change issue, we must acknowledge the unique effects had on impoverished communities of color.
So what can you do? You can lobby with your representative. At Girls Right Now, we learn the power of storytelling, and it can be used to influence policy too. Lobbying is a meeting with an elected official about an issue that you're passionate about, and anyone can schedule a meeting because it's the official's job to hear from you. And lobby meetings are happening via Zoom right now. There are 3 simple steps to lobbying. First, you need to figure out the who, the what, and the when, and schedule your meeting. Next, you need to organize, research, and strategize with your team. And finally, you need to hold the meeting. Always remember to take notes and a picture at the end so you can hold them accountable on social media. And never forget to follow up with them via email. During a meeting, there is a storyteller who connects to the representative using emotions and vulnerability. Why is storytelling so essential to activism? It humanizes issues and molds our perspective. What comes to mind when you think of stories that have influenced our society? We can all think of heart-wrenching, impactful moments. How Rosa Parks wouldn't move from her seat. How the Stonewall riots led to the legalization of LGBTQ+ marriage, and how AOC's journey from becoming a bartender to the youngest congresswoman of the United States now motivates women of color to do the same. Stories demand change because they kick issues out into the limelight and provide a gateway for people to tap into the power of vulnerability. If you don't know what your story is, consider how society is consistently asking you to rehumanize yourself. That is your story. It is your most powerful tool as an activist because it is unique to you. Using that tool to influence policymakers is what will make you stand out and empower you. Here are 4 things to keep in mind. First, you need to mobilize your story. Second, you need to explore the vulnerability of your story. Third, you need to know your audience. And last, you need to connect your story to policies and institutionalized systems.
Your story is a living catalyst.
Our organizations are leading campaigns to mandate climate justice education in public schools.
And we provided you with a toolkit to join the movement.
This is not a moment, this is momentum.
The climate crisis needs your story now.
Please join us in welcoming Agent of Change honoree, Dominique Fishback, and her words on writing and living from your heart.
I would like to thank Girls Right Now for their Agent of Change award. I guess my little bit of advice to you writers out there would be to write from your heart. If you write from your heart, then you can never go wrong. I know that in pursuing a dream as a writer, we think, how are people gonna internalize this? How are people gonna perceive what I'm trying to say? And we have no control over that. We will never know. So if we write from our heart, we can never go wrong. Even if we find out that, oh, we wrote that and it wasn't exactly, it's not exactly how I feel right now. It doesn't matter, because at that moment you had with conviction and with a sense of knowing in yourself that you were writing from your heart, and you could always defend your heart. I'm learning too the power of letting go and letting things be, whether it's people, whether it's the result of something. And even though, we have our ideas of things and manifestation is real, the power in manifestation is to dream of what you want, dream of how you want this thing to be received by divine guidance, and then you have to release it. And try to micromanage every aspect of it. I'm still learning that, but that goes for writing as well. Thank you so very much for this honor. I really appreciate it. It is a great way to, move towards a close of 2020. Thank you.
And now, Hannah Gatsby will present the Agent of Change Award to Lori Liss.
Well, hello there. Giddy up. I just think you should know that Girls Right Now is an awesome enterprise, because if underserved voices are ever going to get served, they will need champions. I want to also say that I want you to know that your voice is important, and not because of how it can help or what it can do for people who already have power and representation. Your voice is important because of the way it can penetrate the isolation marginalized people feel in a world that refuses to acknowledge their experience humanely in a broader cultural context. Now, this kind of thing is impossible to value in a transactional world, and that's why people will try and tell you that your voice doesn't matter, because it doesn't appeal to the experiences of most people. But don't be fooled. Listen to your champions. That's what I say. Now, a few years back, I experienced the kind of success that gave the mainstream a little bit of a nudge. And with that success came a lot of people who wanted to attach themselves to both me and my so-called success. Sadly, not all of those people were necessarily interested in preserving my voice as it pertained to me. I was just a goose that laid a golden egg. Now, well, it wasn't always necessarily malicious, but it did always involve a degradation of my boundaries. And to be fair, a lot of that had to do with my own naivety. I was used to my work being undervalued, so naturally I wanted to believe the best of people who were suddenly placing value in my work. It took me a damaging amount of time to work out who respected the person that came with that success. And if you haven't been paying attention, that was me. That's this goose. Lori Liss was one of the very few people who reached out to me during that time who has only ever respected my boundaries. She showed me an enormous amount of respect and patience as I've muddled my way through all the bullshit. She's let me make my own mistakes, and she only ever got involved to cheer me on when I learnt the inevitably valuable lessons that come with making your own mistakes. And if I'm being honest, I don't think you can really attain success until you can successfully navigate success without letting it corrupt you. And that's not something you can achieve on your own. You need people to help guide you through, and those people need to want to guide you through without steering you through. And those are the people who value your voice for the right reasons. Not what it can do for them, but for its true value. And that is what makes a good mentor. And Lori Liss is a good mentor. Thanks, Loza. I'll go write my book now. Maybe.
When deciding what I wanted to talk about for my masterclass, I sat down for a long while and thought about what is most important to me. And what I realized is that what's most important to me is my ability to think critically and to question authority, and how I see the two going hand in hand. Critical thinking is an analysis of facts. It's our ability to take our moral authority and think about what's been said to us. Simple as that. You can get far deeper. You can get a PhD in it. But for me, it's about thinking through what's being told to me. It's about questioning authority. I've never been a person who accepted yes as a yes or no as a no. I always wanted to know what the underlying story was. And I think that when we question authority, whether it's someone who has a nicer house or better grades or more friends or is elected to political office, we don't have to accept what's given to us. We have to think about it, and then we have to ask questions back. At Girls Right Now, people are asked all the time, questions, answers, questions again, and I encourage that. Don't take the first answer. Don't take the first no. When somebody asks you a question, thoughtfully respond. When somebody gives you an answer, think through what they've said. And if you don't like what's being said, ask someone else or reframe the question. You don't have to take the first response. You actually don't have to take anything you don't want to. Listen carefully. Speak carefully. Question authority. As a literary agent, I have the great fortune of working with writers every day of my life, and really every day. And I was thinking maybe a year or so ago, all my writers are incredibly different, and yet they all share something in common. And what is that thing? And what I realized is that every person I work with shares the desire to explain the human condition, shares the desire to talk about how we got to where we are, whether it's in the United States, in another country, or even anywhere on this planet. And that was deeply meaningful to me. And my job is to read their work and to ask them questions, and for them to go back and answer those questions. That's their job, not just my questions, their own questions, their editor's questions, the people they're interviewing questions. But it's all part of a continuum, and it all starts with questioning authority. Growing up in New York, going to public school, there were a lot of kids around all the time. And I was, one of many in every group. And I think that pretty much every teacher would remind me as that person who always asked questions. And I'm sure a lot of them weren't thrilled with me. But I recently saw my first grade teacher. Okay, that was a long time ago. And the first question she asked is, "Are you still asking questions?" I think that the ability to think critically is what separates us from every other species on the planet. You can't underestimate it. You can't take it for granted, but you can use it and you can hone it. And when you think critically and when you question authority, you make change. And I've always believed that I personally can make change. And I believe that you can too. I believe you can be the change you want to be. How you move through the world is up to you. But if you do it thoughtfully, if you don't accept what's given to you, you're going to have a chance to really emerge to be the person you want to be. It takes work. Everything takes work. But it's totally worth it. I didn't know who I was till I was much older. When I was in college, I came out as a lesbian. It was 1982. It wasn't easy back then. I don't know that it's easy now. It might be easier. But I had mentors who really helped me understand who I am and what it was that I needed and wanted to do. And they asked me questions, and they listened when I responded, and I asked them questions, and they listened when I responded. And I have a good life. I have wonderful kids. I have an amazing partner. I really have what I want. I get to make change in the world. I get to talk politics. I get to talk to great writers all the time. Not easy. I work for it every day. But I am the change that I wanted to see in the world. And before I leave you today, I want to say one more thing. For those of you who are over 18, please vote. Please talk to the people around you about voting. And if they say they're not voting, question them. Why? Why would you give up the ability to vote when it is the one right that really can't be taken away from us? Good luck. Thank you for giving me this time. And remember,
Please welcome Agent of Change honoree and Girls Right Now honorary board member, Ruby Kaur, on the ritual of checking in with ourselves.
Hi, Girls Right Now. I hope you're doing well. I can't imagine that these times are easy for any of you. It's difficult, it's difficult to be a girl in this world, and it's difficult to be raised in some of the homes that we're being raised in. And I want you to know that my heart is going out to all of you every single day for inspiring all of us and for showing up for yourselves every day. I hope that throughout this time that you're writing, I think writing for me has always been such a healing and meditative and spiritual experience. And if you haven't been writing, that's okay. It's really hard to feel inspired. And one thing that I want you to know is that I often feel uninspired. Actually, I have more uninspiring days than inspiring days. And sometimes I don't think that we can wait for inspiration to strike. I think that we are more powerful than that. I think that we all have magic within us, and it's always there for us to tap into. So one thing that I like to do to tap into my magic every single day, even if I don't feel like it, is I sit down for about 5 to 10 minutes minimum, and I just do a little check-in. It's kind of meditative. I sort of sit and I take really long breaths, and I just feel where I'm at. Spiritually, I feel where I am in my body. Where is the anxiety today? What hurts? Where does it hurt? And the breathing is super, super cleansing. And what this breathing and this meditation readies me for is the writing process. It makes me vulnerable. It kind of molds me and it melts me so that when I approach my writing desk, I am more open. And sometimes it's really hard to open your journal and look at an empty piece of paper. And so I have a very, very simple trick. I have the same prompt every single day. And it can be whatever you want, you know. I think one that I use every day is, what does it feel like to be here today? And it's the same prompt that I check in with myself with. And the thing is, the result is different every single day. And so that prompt leads into a lot of free writing, which leads to something else, and it leads to something else. And so having that sort of ritual, something that I do every day, the sort of same check-in, is inspiring for me. It makes me feel closer to myself. So I hope that you have something that you do to check in. I wanted to say that I have so much love for all of you. Thank you for making me feel welcome in your space always. Thank you for letting me share my poetry and my words with you. And I just want to say how much I respect you for showing up for yourself every single day. Thank you for that. And what I want for all of us is for us to show up for you every single day so that you can feel the best that you can feel, and so that you can have a space where you feel safe and you feel empowered to chase whatever in the world you want to chase, because I truly believe and I know that it's yours.
Girls Right Now is meeting the highest demand in our 23-year history, and the results are inspiring. Your donation will be helping to build the next generation of writers and leaders we so badly need now. Now more than ever, we need your support. We're halfway through the awards, and it's a great time to take out your credit card and visit www.girlsrightnow.org/give and donate. Any amount deeply impacts the work of Girls Right Now. Thank you.
Let's welcome Agent of Change honoree, Lauren Ashley Smith, and her masterclass, Keeping Your Eyes on Your Own Paper.
I am so excited to be teaming up with Girls Right Now because your mission is so close to my heart. I am a writer because someone, and in fact, several someones, encouraged me. And I know firsthand the impact and value that mentorship and encouragement can have when you are a young person that's setting out to have creative endeavors. So I am very grateful and deeply honored to receive this award. I'm also really excited to share with you a mini masterclass, and it's a lesson that I learned early in life that I think has served me really well. And that lesson is keep your eyes on your own paper. And I'm actually going to refer to my literal paper as I go through a little bit. When I was a kid, my dad sat me and my 2 sisters down and he told us, you 3 are not in competition with each other. A win for one of you is a win for all of you. And that's something that I've carried with me ever since in my life with my sisters and also with my peers and my friends. Now, the creative world is kind of nebulous, right? Like, unlike if you want to be a teacher or a doctor, there's no clear path to being that writer you want to be. But if you want to be a teacher or a doctor, for example, you know that there are certain classes you have to take, there are certain years of school you have to complete, and there are tests you have to take. And if you do those things to the standards required of you, you will be a teacher or a doctor. But as a writer, you can take all the classes, you can follow all of the advice, you can write every day and work really hard, and you may or may not end up with a career you want to have. But on the other hand, you could spend 2 minutes composing a tweet that goes viral, and then you can end up with a career that you never could even dream up. It's that big. It really is a toss-up, and there is no clear path. And in an environment like that, where the path is very, nebulous and weird, and when you're working alongside your friends and your peers to achieve similar things, it's very easy for jealousy to creep in, right? You start to think, well, that person got accolades that I wanted, or that person achieved something that I want to achieve, or that person got my dream job. And it's very easy for that twinge of why them and why not me to creep in. But the thing that we need to tell ourselves, and the true thing to tell ourselves, is if it can happen for them, it can happen for me. And think about it like this. If you and I are standing outside and I look up at the sky to admire how blue and beautiful it is, my looking up at the sky takes nothing away from your ability or opportunity to look up at the sky as well. There is plenty of sky for us to look up at and admire, and those opportunities to look up and admire the sky are infinite. Similarly, in the business of creating and writing, the rumor that there is not enough room for everyone is simply not true. And I want to repeat that. The rumor that there is not enough room for everyone is simply not true. There is room for everyone. Imagine how truly wrong I would sound if I said, there's only room for one TV show about friends in New York. What? Like, tell that to Friends, 30 Rock, Girls, Will and Grace, Broad City, Seinfeld, King of Queens, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and the list goes on. Imagine if the creators of Broad City said, you know what, we're gonna stop trying to make our show because Will and Grace already exists. Those shows couldn't be more different. Even though on paper they both are about friends in New York City, the true thing that makes them different is the point of view and the authenticity brought to them by the people that created and collaborated on those shows. And that is so important. Your point of view is your currency because you are the only you. You are the only one with your unique and valuable point of view on life and lived experiences. And that makes it so that you are never in competition with anyone else except for your best and your goals. And that's why I implore you to keep your eyes on your own paper. If what you're doing is authentic and passion-filled and you work hard for it, what other people are doing is irrelevant. So when you see someone get something you want, take that jealousy and turn it into gratefulness that now what you want most in life has been brought into sharper focus. Your peers' success doesn't take success away from you. All it proves is that there is success for everyone to go around. There's enough for them and there's enough for you. So keep your eyes on your own paper. You're going to be amazing, and I am so excited to see what you come up with. Thank you.
Here to share her take on radical self-care, please welcome Girls Right Now mentee, Caitlin Levy.
Today, I wanted to talk to you about radical self-care. Most of you probably already know that it's important to take care of yourself. You might put on a face mask sometimes or have a go-to relaxing routine. These fit within our definition of self-care, practices we bring into our lives to preserve our wellness. However, radical self-care is a lot more difficult. It's also necessary. It's about choosing yourself in everything you do. It's showing up for yourself so you can show up for others. As women, we can be inclined to internalize misogyny. The media we consume can nurture spite toward other women. When we uplift ourselves, it is an act of preservation. We take power from companies that seek to profit off of divisiveness and insecurities. We're able to restore ourselves through all the challenges the days may bring. And with that, we can be there for others. So, instead of feeling worn out and waiting for some moment when you can be there for yourself, you uplift yourself in everything you do. This goes beyond taking a walk or meditation. It is constantly questioning, what do I deserve? It's a way of life. It can be taking a break from something that feels stressful to you. It can be saying, I need to step back from this project to address how I've been feeling. It's asking, do I deserve to do something that I don't truly enjoy? If all of this feels elusive to you, that can be a chance to reevaluate things. We can dig deep as to whether in every action we take, we go the self-compassionate and empowering route. So I encourage each of you to uplift yourself and recognize its beautiful potential for your community. One of the main reasons I wanted to teach this masterclass is that this is a lesson I'm still learning. I'm in it with each of you. So harness your radical compassion. Be kind to yourself in everything you do. You certainly deserve it.
We're thrilled to introduce Agent of Change honoree Cleo Wade. She'll be speaking to the difference between self-care and self-maintenance.
Hi everyone, this is Cleo Wade, and I am so honored and I feel so lucky to be receiving the Change Agent Award from Girls Right Now, which is just the coolest organization on the planet. I am in such deep admiration of the work that you all do and all of the lives that you are able to touch and all of the ways that you are completely changing the world by giving so many girls a space and a platform to make their voices heard. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's talk self-care. One of the things that I find that happens the most often is people really confuse self-maintenance with self-care. So, we all have that one friend who, you might call them on their self-care Sunday and they are like, oh my God, I can't talk. I just did, hot yoga for 2 hours and I'm chugging a green juice and I've got to rush to get my nails done and my laundry's in the dryer and, you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, and by the way, sometimes I am that friend, you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, like, you hate yoga. You don't like that green juice at all. All those other things feel like chores. And I think sometimes we get confused because self-care is often something that is so heavily marketed to us. It is always being sold to us. You'll have self-care if you buy this face mask. You'll have self-care if you have this fingernail polish or this eye cream or go to this yoga class or go to this Pilates class or on this diet or whatever it may be. And those things, if you like them, that is amazing to have in your life. But I like to call those things self-maintenance. They are the things that you have in your life that just help you to feel a little bit like you've got your life, a little bit of a handle on your life in certain ways. I mean, I think we all know what it's like to look down and just feel like you've got your life together a little bit more because you might have a manicure or whatever it may be. But and those things can be a part of your self-care routine, but they're really more of self-maintenance. To me, self-care and radical self-care at that are things that always feel good. They're things that bring us back to center. I often say that if self-love is something that says, I love you, then self-care says, prove it. Self-care is how we prove how much we love ourselves. And, sometimes when the world feels so overwhelming, it's important to remember that there are simple, easy ways that you can show love for yourself. One of them being, and by the way, most of them are free. So one of them might be taking a nice long walk. and just getting back into your body in that way and kind of moving some energy out of your body. One might be writing, so that you can kind of move all of these thoughts and conflicting feelings and emotions out of your heart or out of your mind, and putting them on paper where you can really look at them and say, gosh, what's real here and what's true, and which parts of these do I need to carry around with me, and which parts do I not need to? Which of these things are burdens that no longer serve me? Another one of them could just be taking a deep breath, just going through your day, and I think we all know what it's like to become so busy that you literally forget to breathe. And then all of a sudden you can just even go into the bathroom for 2 minutes, taking a break from your family or your workspace, and just having 3 breaths and dedicating them to yourself. And finally, one that I really like is just staying hydrated, having a glass of water. Oftentimes, we can create rituals around the simplest things, like having your morning tea and having that time to yourself, having a glass of water, taking a deep breath, going on a walk, and even other times calling a friend or getting help if you need help, calling a mentor. These are all ways that we are able to radically and simply take care of ourselves. Thank you.
With a lesson on embracing the journey, here's Agent of Change honoree, Tembi Banks.
What's up? My name is Tembi Banks, and I think I'm being called an honoree, but I am honored myself to talk to all my girls and gender nonconforming peeps about, I think, one of the most important lessons that I have learned and am currently learning: embracing the journey. I have 0 patience, okay? I'm like a bad doctor, no patience. I don't like waiting for anything. I don't like waiting for food. I don't like waiting for people. I don't like waiting for a ride. Like, I hate having to be patient. I want what I want when I want it. And of course, that absolutely trickles over into my professional life. When I set my eyes on a goal, my sights on a goal, it's like, okay, it's going to happen now, right? It's going to happen tomorrow, right? And especially when you're talking about film, in particular, television moves a lot quicker, but even when you're talking about film, it can take years to make a film. And so that's something that I'm learning now as I'm going through this process. And sometimes it's excruciating. I can't even lie to you guys. And I'm actually living through it right now. And sometimes it feels like unbearable because you're so passionate. You're so ready to go. A lot of the times you do have to wait until everyone is on board. All of your team is on board and sees the vision how you see it so that they can support you. And so a lot of that times it feels like I have to slow down in order for things to happen. And that can be really, really frustrating. And especially during COVID-19, right? Everything came to a standstill. Everything's moving much slower, much more differently. And all the goals that we had set out for this year have now taken a turn. And so we have to kind of like slow down and reassess. But there is so much learning in that, and it's so worth the wait. And you can't rush things. You can't rush creativity. You can't rush greatness. And no matter how much you want it to happen, when you want it to happen, it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And I'm a firm believer in that. I am. And so I'm not going to lie, it's hard when you're living through it. And I think even as you're waiting and struggling through it, take a moment and stand in it and realize that this is a moment that I'm going to look back on and be so grateful for. This is a moment that I'm going to look back on and say, look how far I came. And so embrace all the peaks and valleys and the rocky, terrain that you're going through, especially right now, and know that it is going to make for a better story. And it's going to make you even more appreciative of what you accomplish in the future.
On taking your power back from anxiety and insecurity, here's Agent of Change honoree, Cassie David.
Hey, Cassie.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going, the debate was last night. I'm existing in the world, and so it can only be so good,
I feel like you're publishing your book, which has several essays about living with anxiety at a time where this is like the mode we're all living in. So how did you confront your anxiety in a way that felt productive to write a book about it?
I guess, when you're at your most anxious, you are obviously like not very productive. But every time you're anxious, at the core of like what you're feeling anxiety about, like what you're really feeling anxiety about, could be essentially a prompt for something that might be interesting to write about. So if I have like obsessive thoughts about this one thing, it kind of means that I'm, spiraling out of control and thinking of 100 different things about this one thing. And when you do that and you kind of step away from it, you kind of realize that you've just come up with essentially material for what this one thing is that you're having anxiety about, which could be a premise. So a lot of the essays in the book are essentially just from like panic attacks I had about certain things going on in my life.
How do you use humor as a means to kind of like prop open your writing and open up those experiences?
If you use humor to like lighten whatever it is you're thinking about that's making you upset, you can start to see like, oh, this is like an absurd aspect of being alive. There's so much stuff in the book that I wrote about that was like super embarrassing for me at the time. And then just writing about it and then knowing that someone could like laugh at my rejection or connect with it makes you just less embarrassed about it in the first place. By writing about your embarrassment, you're kind of like taking your power back from that moment. And it's because once you write about them, they feel much less embarrassing.
As you know, I've been a mentor in this program for the past 3 years. And what I love about it is that all of the mentees are so vulnerable with their experiences and so just willing to open themselves up and like push themselves with their writing. When you think back to your high school self, what advice would you give her?
I was saying the other day that I actually feel no different than I did when I was like 14. Like I'm still like highly insecure and anxious and self-conscious. But I guess, and anyone who like is part of this program, obviously like wants to write, the ability to have that outlet. Some people who don't want to be writers and like have no interest in it, they have to like live with all these bad moments and they don't get to have a payoff from it. And so we're very lucky to be able to make some of these moments kind of worth it by writing about them and making them funny or relatable. So I think your insecurity and anxiety will pay off because you're going to do something with it. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be a part of this in any way I can.
And to close out the evening, let's welcome Mentee alum Carmen Wong on the essential work of writing with purpose.
Hi everyone. I'm Carmen Wong, a Girls Right Now Mentee alum, class of 2014. And I'm here to share with young writers that right now in this very moment, it is the time for our voices to be heard. It is a time for you to find sanctuary in your voice, to think critically about our environment and do something worthwhile. It is the time to write about it. Write about what you see going on in America. Write about what you would change around the world. Write about what makes you happy. Write about a world you imagine. Keep pouring love into this world through your ministry of writing. I know it's a time of tumult and overwhelm with COVID-19 and race wars happening at our feet. But that's why everything we write matters. I know some of us are grieving and dealing with depression and anxiety, and I encourage us to take care of ourselves no matter what, and take care of each other as best as possible right now. Because creating is no easy task. It's a bold one. It's the risk we take to exist in this world just as we are. We are in pain, but we can't stop writing. We have seen the transition of many great, incomparable artists this year who stood firmly in their identity. Chadwick Boseman reminded me of that in his artistry. In an article in 2013, Boseman wrote about the great August Wilson, a revolutionary playwright and strong advocate for the Black theater community. Wilson not only encouraged us, but demanded us to identify the ground on which we stand. So, I ask you today, what does that ground look like for you? And how does it surface in your writing or your writing process? I find that the beauty of the work that we do is the homage we deliberately pay to those who have done this work before us. Black, Indigenous people of color, especially, or those who share in multiple identities that have been marginalized. We have been the protesters. We have been the ones writing our documentaries. We have been the propagandists. In this world of social distancing, we are also the entertainers, the visionaries, the culture bearers. We are writers. This is what we do. We are reminded right now that artists are essential workers. And contrary to public opinion, I tell you, do not stray away from your anger or from your fear or from your confusion or from your anguish if that is how you feel. The script is like a scripture, is what keeps us going as writers, as believers of change, as thinkers and overthinkers. I encourage us, young people, young writers, young ambitious poets, playwrights, novelists, screenwriters to keep writing. Even if we're stuck at home, away from auditoriums and open mics and stages, keep writing. Even if no one sees it, keep writing. As a Black woman writer, it's been extremely difficult for me to write. But through the difficulty comes the real stories, the feelings we simply cannot hide or hide from. And I share something that I've been working on. This poem is a reflection on multiculturalism. This poem is tethered to the North Atlantic Sea. This poem is for Berbice, Georgetown, Essequibo Coast, the Demerara, Linden, Buxton. This poem is pumping a Black breast. This poem is irrigation still outdoors. This poem is a tongue that curses L'Amistad, Trevador, Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. This poem is sweet as green plantains. This poem is spicy as Scotch bonnet pepper. This poem is side, hip, swaying, one weeping baby. This poem is sing-song. This poem is skin teeth. This poem is skinned knee. This poem is a sickening memory. This poem is San Juan Bautista, treasurer, the white lion sometime before 1619. This poem is one side of my indentured grandparents. This poem is oppression, is linguicide, is uprising. This poem is forgotten.
Wow. From critical thinking to climate urgency to embracing the journey, I think we can all agree that these are lessons that will last a lifetime. This year might be tough, but we hope tonight showed you that we can reimagine a way through this. Hold on to these lessons and share your own. Thank you for joining us at the 2020 Girls Rewrite Now Awards and for supporting Girls Right Now. We wouldn't have it any other way.